Hi everyone, Alexandra Jarrett, Jupiter Returns here. Hope you've had a beautiful Christmas and that you're enjoying this special time. This really is quite an extraordinary time that we're in at the moment. We had that wonderful eclipse on Boxing Day, and we have another eclipse coming up on the horizon. And this space that we find ourselves in the middle of those two eclipses is a really potent time. So pay attention to whatever it is that's showing up in your life right now. Things take on a certain specific kind of extra meaning and significance around this time, and especially today as we're moving, the sun moving forward into Capricorn is actually connecting up with the south node of the moon, the south lunar node. So the nodes of the moon are Rahu, the north node, which is currently down there in Cancer, and the south node, Ketu, up there in Capricorn. So this is the nodal axis. So if you ever hear me referring to the nodal axis, it's the interplay of those 2 points in the chart. And today we have the sun right on the south node. This period of time, this 2-week period in between the eclipses, was what my astrology teacher referred to as the dragon hole. The north node, Rahu, being the dragon's head, and Ketu, the south node, being the dragon's tail. So this period in between essentially is, you know, that middle part, the belly of the beast, and we're right in that now. It's a very special time. And yeah, dragons, beasts, they're scary things. You know, we go poking around in these deeper realms, these deeper and quite hidden realms, and that's scary. But, you know, dragons sleep on these huge piles of treasure, and the work that you do right now is really going to help you to find that gold. So really work with this if you can. So with the sun on the south node here today, you may be having an increase in feelings towards really wanting to understand essentially who you are at the core of it all, when all of the roles you play in life and all of this stuff is taken away. What is the core essence of you? And also, you know, with the South Node connection there being kind of related to the past, it's a good time to ask, you know, where have I come from? And this is going to be a repeating theme throughout the next week and onwards. You know, that the south is where we're coming from. We're heading towards the north, and I think we can, you know, we can make the best of where we're going when we have a really firm, solid base. So understanding and working with both the points in harmony together like this is really useful. So you may be sort of increasing as the week goes on, but particularly today, there may be this strong feeling of really wanting to understand who you are as a soul, as the pure essence of who you are. Time is a strong feature of Capricorn. Saturn is Chronos, the lord of time. And so we start to consider things around whether time is linear or not. You know, it's sometimes that the whole nodal axis can get caught up in this linear portrayal of time. That's the past, that's the future, and I'm somewhere in the middle. But essentially, we need to sort of bend that up and start to consider it in cycles of evolution and development. There isn't kind of like this past life and future life. It's more a case of moving around as we continuously grow and evolve and incorporate aspects of our past, rather than just seeing it as something to distance ourselves from. It's really, really important to integrate. And that's another part of Saturn and Capricorn energy, is that integration. To have something that's integral is solid. So really getting to grips with your own history. And with the nodes particularly activating Cancer and Capricorn this year, this has been a year when people have found themselves, and you may be one of those, drawn to understanding your background just a little bit more and exploring that realm, wanting to know more about just this particular physical incarnation that you find yourself in, whether that's, you know, exploring your family tree or being more engaged with your family, or perhaps taking one of these genetic tests that are now available, these test kits, are just really wanting to explore, where have I come from? Who am I? What does that make me? And then what's the involvement that I have in that process now? Because Saturn in Capricorn is all about taking responsibility as well. So what's your responsibility in that process? And also, really importantly, you know, the understanding that you too will be an ancestor for future generations. You know, we look back on our ancestors, sometimes, you know, holding them, you know, very high, in high esteem. We will be ancestors too one day. So will we be ancestors to look back on and be proud of? These are some of the themes that you might find yourself experiencing. On a more surface level, we have the moon just completing her journey through the sign of Aquarius, and she's going to be coming into square with Mars, who's pretty much just finishing up the job in Scorpio. Now, when a planet kind of comes to the end of a sign, it's kind of a potent part of that transit, because it's the last moment that Mars has to do that work there. And of course, Scorpio really is all about going into the deep, into the depths, into the hidden realms. So with Mars at the very last degree here, again, that can be that kind of pull, that draw towards going into the darker stuff. The moon essentially will create a square aspect to Mars at that final degree today, and that square, you know, on a surface level, can agitate us a little with Mars. It can be a little bit kind of quarrelsome, let's say. So don't get kind of dragged into that irritability if you can help it. And if you do, then, you know, it's a moon transit. The moon moves on very quickly. So these transits really aren't going to sort of hang around for too long. But it's kind of a restlessness. It's an agitation. And we could, you know, find ourselves communicating from that place. So just have a little bit of awareness of what's going on, and perhaps utilize that agitation and that restlessness for something that you would like to have a little bit of an extra kick to. So as we move into Tuesday, the 31st, of course, is New Year's Eve, and the moon will be in Pisces, which is beautiful. Pisces, the last sign of the zodiac. Its place in the zodiacal wheel like that lends to bringing things to an end, bringing things to a close. And so it's quite the perfect placement for the moon to be as we move out of one year and one decade and into the next. So it's drawing things to a conclusion. It's kind of more of a solitary kind of moon placement. It's not super into big crazy parties and things, so it might be a time to just spend time alone or with your nearest and dearest, your soul tribe. You know, this is quite a spiritual placement, and you may feel a yearning to have a greater spiritual connection as well, particularly as literally as we move into midnight, the moon's going to conjunct Neptune, really emphasizing that Piscean quality. So you may feel like really wanting to be near water, wanting to have more of a spiritual kind of involvement, a deeper connection with source perhaps, or a deeper connection with the source that you experience in those around you, rather than on the surface level. Pisces likes to go really deep. So a great New Year's Eve to spend by the water, or in any kind of spiritual kind of communion. The other thing about Moon and Neptune is it can be a little bit, let's say, unboundaries. So Neptune rules alcohol and drugs. It rules being in an altered state of consciousness. So when the moon is here, we're going to potentially come across a lot of people who perhaps aren't quite so clear, because Neptune rules altered perception, aren't so clear of perhaps what their limit is with regards to substances, or who they are, being unboundaried with in any kind of way. You could lose your sense of clarity around your own ability to handle a situation, or things may become very confusing. You might find yourself waking up on New Year's Day and thinking, how did I get here? Or, what the hell happened? It's that kind of energy. So just be a little bit aware that you're going to be a little bit more sensitive to the lesser desirable influences of Neptune and Pisces, and just, have a buddy, that's kind of keeping an eye on you and how much you're drinking and that kind of thing. And just if you're going out doing the partying thing, and that could save some potential regret as we move into a new year. Then as we move into the new year on the 1st of January, on Wednesday, the moon continues her journey through Pisces. She's actually going to now make a sextile aspect to Pluto in Capricorn. Okay, this is a helpful energy if we can tap into it. And again, I think it's going to, the sextile will take place with Saturn first. Saturn and Pluto are now only 1 degree apart. Okay, so essentially it's a sextile to Saturn, and then immediately after a sextile to Pluto. So kind of we're looking at them in the same kind of way at the moment. But this is going to really help draw us again into the deepness of our family. The moon rules our family and our home and our ancestors. So, there may actually be some things that come up to the surface, that are washed up to the surface with the Pluto connection, things that you weren't aware of before, or feelings, with the moon, feelings that you just find yourself being put in touch with that are actually quite beneficial to you in terms of your stage of personal development. Everybody is at a different stage, and information washes up to the surface only when we're ready to receive it. So sometimes it can take us by surprise a little bit, because you may have been at a certain stage of your development for a period of time, and then all of a sudden another piece drops into place, but it's because you're ready. So you may find this kind of thing happening on Wednesday. Anything that's been deeply buried, potentially something that's a secret, but it's essentially allowing you that special kind of insight. All right, the moon is a light. The moon and the sun are the lights, the luminaries, they're called. So they shine light on things. And when they're shining light on Pluto, it's essentially the things that have been hidden in the darkness, in the shadows. So it's insight, it's turning the light inwards and seeing what we've got in there, and perhaps finding something that we didn't know previously was there. Because we're in this such a special time now in the belly of the dragon. And this is allowing you to then take responsibility, the Saturn aspect, taking responsibility for what you find down there, and taking control and ownership and mastery of your need to change, your need to bring renewal and regeneration into your life. That's going to last, way, way, way ahead, and in fact, in all directions. So watch out for that one on New Year's Day. As we move into Thursday, the moon is now moving into the sign of Aries. This is this kind of this point here between Pisces and Aries, with Pisces being the very last sign on the zodiacal wheel, and Aries being the first. It's kind of like the start finish line, if there were such a thing, of where we're going from total endings to complete new beginnings. So the moon moving into this space on Thursday really gives us that feeling of starting afresh and starting something new. This is, of course, going to be activating Chiron. And the moon is quite strong at this point in her cycle. She's waxing now. She's growing as we move into that next eclipse that we have coming. So again, this could be quite profoundly experienced and felt within you, the Chiron wound. And in fact, anyone born between April 1968 and 1977 will have their birth natal Chiron in the sign of Aries. Okay, so you might feel this more than other people. You will be having your Chiron return at some point fairly soon. Essentially, you could say that the Chiron return process has started already because Chiron is in Aries, but it depends how much you feel. It will depend how close it is to your Chiron. But the moon's really going to activate this area of the chart and really make that Chiron influence quite profoundly experienced. You will find, if you've got your Chiron later on in Aries in your birth chart, have a look, that you will be experiencing the Saturn and Pluto conjunction up there in Capricorn will be squaring your natal Chiron around now. So that's later on in that period from 1968 to 1977. So what's going on in Capricorn with Saturn and Pluto, this deep lasting change process, this breaking down of the old to create something new, may be calling in issues around your Chiron. So look out for that, check your chart, see what's going on. The squares are always so potent. Also, with Mars completing this journey in Scorpio, coming to the end, it's building into a trine aspect. And of course, Mars is the ruler of Aries, so there's a little bit more receptivity between those two parts of the chart. So that's really going to be helping us to feel motivated, to want to do something about our healing, to really want to say, okay, it's time now. Now is where we really get serious about things. And I'll be talking to you a little bit more about that as the aspect progresses. But it's really taking charge and feeling motivated, essentially. As we go overnight then on Thursday, we have the first quarter square aspect of the moon. Whoops. So the moon will be moving into a 90-degree angle with the sun up there in Capricorn, 2 cardinal signs, so it's going to be really quite provocative. And with it happening overnight, this could be one of those nights where sleep doesn't come too easily or is disrupted, because at the same time we have Mercury and Jupiter coming together as well in Capricorn. So much going on in Capricorn right now. So if that's, find Capricorn in your chart, that's where it's all happening. What house does it relate to? What are the themes that are showing up in your life? But Mercury and Jupiter coming together in Capricorn, along with this first quarter square aspect overnight, really could get us lost in a lot of thinking, excess thinking, essentially, as we're trying to get our head around solving problems, the quarter moon aspects are all about finding solutions to problems, coming face to face with the hurdles that kind of jump up and get in our way of going where we want to go with the lunar cycle. So this is going, we could get really, really, it could be one of those nights where we're lying asleep in bed going, how am I going to do this? How am I going to go about fixing that problem, or moving into this this new space as I move forward? What are the ambitions and intentions that we've set? So just be aware of that. And if you can, it's really, really helpful. This is an earth sign. So making something physically touchable and tangible will help to kind of ground this energy, taking it out of your head and onto a piece of paper by journaling or just writing all of the thoughts that are coming up in your mind. Just spend 10 minutes doing that before you go to bed. Get it out of here and onto the paper, and that could help you have a better night's sleep. And you may find actually that overnight you subconsciously or through a dream or something like that come up with a solution to a problem, or an idea around how you can move forward with what you're trying to achieve in this area of your life. So in those hazy moments when you're just waking up in the morning and you're kind of in that in-between space between being asleep and properly waking up, just pay a little bit of attention to what's come through in the night, and quickly jot that down as well. That can be really, really helpful too. So this really is, as we move into the weekend, it really is all about doing this self-exploration work, understanding the timeline, for want of a better term, of the self, of the essence of the self. When we explore Chiron with the moon there, one of the greatest kind of healing benefits to understand with Chiron, who's a centaur, half man, half beast, and also half mortal and half immortal. And we have to kind of take that view on ourselves. We're not just the animal, flesh, human, tangible thing that is in this incarnation, this kind of meat suit that we're all walking around wearing. That's not who we are. That's a part of our experience at the moment. There's another part, the immortal part, that's going to continue, and that has been around all of time, this circular idea of time. And it's really important when we consider our healing to consider, healing both simultaneously. And I think that ties in perfectly with doing the South Node and the North Node work at this time as well. So give those things some thought, poke around. It's the holiday period. Perhaps you have greater connection with older members of the family or more distant members of the family that at other times of the year you don't have, and just ask them to tell stories about the parts of the family that you didn't know about previously, and really get a good understanding of all of the influences that have helped bring you to the point that you're at now. Where are you at now? Just so that you can take stock in the middle, as we sort of leave one year and move into the next. Take stock. Who am I? Where am I? Where am I going? And what's the bigger picture of my growth? And really take that wider view. The other thing to bear in mind, I think Mercury in Capricorn, it's kind of like it has a kind of a fact checker essence to it. So it's going to be questioning, what you have laid down in some aspect of yourself as, this absolute solid fact. It may be the family story, or a family tradition or something like that. But Mercury in Capricorn wants to just scrutinize that and make sure it's absolutely bang on. So it's a really, really good time just to explore, you know, what are those solid, what we might consider facts about ourselves. And of course, with Jupiter is our beliefs. So how true are your beliefs? You know, this might be a time when things arise that call you perhaps to question that, and that's really, really helpful. There's so much call to truth going on in Capricorn right now, and with Mars at the last degree of Scorpio as well. So truth can only be a good thing, and wherever you are at on your journey with truth, I wish you the absolute very, very best. I hope that you can use this time to deepen your journey and to distill some real purity, some real treasure, find all that buried gold that lays within. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Please click on the like or the love or the share, or leave me a comment. Let me know any feedback that you'd like from this. And as always, I will be back next week as we approach another super powerful week in the astrology. But until then, lots of love. Thank you. Bye-bye.